Hey, this is Mr. Elmhorst with our first night's math lesson. We're going to take a look at integers and absolute value. So inside of our math journals that we're setting up at home and in the classroom, let's go ahead and write this down up on the first line, and we should be on page 3. And just a general introduction, just kind of let you know what's going on with these numbers. In middle school, we start to classify different types of numbers into groups or into different sets of numbers. And you're familiar with these numbers, but we're going to start giving them a classification. Okay, so you can write that down. If you need to pause the video and go back, go ahead and do that. So in 6th grade, we're just going to focus on 3 sets of number groupings, or 3 classifications. And those 3 classifications are just called whole numbers, integers, and rational numbers. Whole numbers you've been familiar with from your elementary days, and now we're going to introduce the integers and then also rational numbers. So whole numbers, no big change there. They're all the positive numbers and 0. And for my definition, I'm going to say where there's no partial numbers or parts of numbers. For example, fractions or decimals left over. So just draw a number line right here, and we're going to start with 0, 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. Okay, so just going to the right, increasing all of our positive complete numbers where there's no partial numbers. Okay, so that's our classification, our sets that is called whole numbers. Now, the new term for 6th grade, we're going to call this integers, and it's going to be all the whole numbers. So we're going to take all these numbers within that set, and then we're actually going to make a larger set, another group. So it's going to be all the whole numbers, which is going to be positives and zeros, but integers in this group, we're going to take all these and then we're going to include their opposites. So, and we got to think about that. What's the opposite of positive numbers? That's going to be negatives. So this classification of integers, where it's going to include the whole numbers and then also negatives, their opposites. So make it a number line down below. We can do the same thing right here. So we're starting with our whole numbers. And now we're looking at the opposites of them. And the opposite of a positive 1 would be a negative 1. The opposite of a positive 2 would be negative 2. And just something to note, as we're going to the negative side of 0, if you notice, the numbers are increasing, and you could say this in a backwards segment, where it's going negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. So on the positive side, they're going up 1, 2, 3, 4, going to the right, but it's going to be counting to the left and going up in the opposite direction. So we got our negatives and our positives. Okay, so this is our classification of integers. And I'm going to put a hold on rational numbers for right now. We will get to that in a later lesson, but for this week and for this lessons, we're going to talk about whole numbers and integers. Okay, and one classification, one other term that we need to take a look at is something called absolute value. So absolute value, by definition, is simply put, it's a number's distance from 0 on a number line. So if we look at the number 7, we can actually do a quick number line down below. Might be running out of space here. Absolute value is just a quick check of a number, asking ourselves, how far is that number from 0? Yes, we do look at whether it's positive or negative, but when we answer the question, how far is that number from 0, we just give a number and not a positive or negative designation with that number. So how far is positive 7 from 0? Starting at 0, we would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this value, positive 7, is measured as 7 units from 0, so the absolute value of 7 is just 7. And on the negative side, asking how far is negative 7 from 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, negative 7. So if we go negative 7 on the number line, and we ask the question, how far did we go? We went 7 units. So whether a number is positive or it's negative, when we ask the question, what is that number's absolute value, or what is that number's distance from 0, then we reply with an answer of just saying what the number is and not whether it was negative or positive.